podcast that you're listening to is being presented to you in cooperation with the SJ Network. If you're a person who'd like to appear on a podcast, contact Stephen Joyner at s-j-network.com. Let's get on with the show.
Today, on the Sherpa Screening Room, it's part one of a two-part interview with actor Larry Hankin.
He's just released his autobiography. Right now, I'm reading my own autobiography.
That's interesting. What page are you on?
All of them.
Attention, rebels of the Sherpalution.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. We would like to give you a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial simply by heading to www.audibletrial.com/Sherpa. There are over 180,000 titles of audiobooks and podcasts, including this one, to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And now, the one and only Mr. Bruce will lead you into the Sherpa Chalet. As a reminder, our desk staff offers complimentary wake-up calls. We will call your room at 5 a.m. to ask you what you are doing with your life.
Coming to you from Sherpa Chalet in beautiful downtown Mount Podcastia, it's time for entertainment interviews in the Sherpa Screening Room. Grab an aisle seat and a bucket of popcorn, but don't crunch too loud or you'll miss the show. Now, here's your host, Jim, the podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, rebels of the Sherpalution. Welcome to the Sherpa Screening Room. It is a presentation of Too Many Podcasts, the podcasts about podcasts, and I am Jim, the podcast Sherpa. I've been waiting for you. I'm glad you hit that play button. Welcome. And you've come across a very special episode, once again, of the Sherpa Screening Room. My guest today is a guest who's actually been on the show before, about 2 years ago. Believe it or not, you've probably seen him more times than you actually realize. He's probably one of the most well-known character actors that we've got in the United States. He's done close to 200 movies and television programs, and a lot of those movies and programs are pretty big. And you'll know the voice once you hear him talking. And I got to talk to him because he's got an autobiography out now. It's called That Guy, a Cautionary Memoir. And if you're wondering who that guy is, his name is Larry Hankin. And I'm sure if you Google him and you see his image, or if you've seen the image on the promo on our Sherpalution social media pages, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. And you'll also know that if you listen to the last interview from 2 years ago, it's going to be an interesting conversation because Larry always keeps it lively. That is for sure, folks. So this one's going to be a two-parter, and obviously we have to start with part one, and we are off and running, folks. Let's have a listen to my conversation with Mr. Larry Hankin. Hello there, rebels of the Sherpalution. We are here in the Sherpa Screening Room with a returning guest. He was on like 2 years ago, and the man is still busy. At last count, his amount of TV shows and movies that he's been is up to 191. That's a busy guy, you know, over a lengthy period of time. And he has now a new book out called That Guy, a Cautionary Memoir. I love the title, by the way. And he's here to talk about that.
Wait a minute, I can't. I'm going to have to put on earphones here. Wait, hold it. Wait a minute. Oh, yikes.
Okay.
Okay, there. And hello.
Good. Can you hear me now?
Hear you now. I can hear you.
Okay, I'll start over again. It's okay.
No, I heard that. I just couldn't for 2 seconds hear you while I plugged it in. Okay. No, it's fine. Hi, everybody. How you doing?
That's Larry Hankin, by the way. Larry, welcome to the show. I'm glad you can hear me now.
Cool.
I guess that is the common cry of modern technology. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, the digital is all over the place. Yeah.
That is true. So, all right, well, I guess we can start off by talking about the book. So what inspired you? Obviously, all of this had to be written down.
I should have had a picture ready to show you. Well, this is audio, right? Yeah. Well, the book is called That Guy because everybody just points to me and says, "Oh, hey, you're that guy." So I thought, well, there's a title for a book. So then I had to write the book then. once you get the title, then you got to fulfill the whole thing. So I wrote it. It's just about me and show business, how I got into it, why I don't like it, why I like it, and every and a lot of the jobs that took me to Hollywood, and then all the TV and movies. Well, a lot of them, the good ones, the ones you remember. That's the one I wrote about. So yeah, it's kind of a cool book. Couple of people, friends have read it, and they think it's cool. So yeah, go out and get it. It's coming out in March, I think. Then next month.
Okay.
I just finished the galleys, correcting the galleys. That's the worst part of writing a book, is not writing the book. Writing the book is easy. It's this fulfilling all the stations of the cross of getting it published. That's the job. Yeah, that's the hard part. It took me a year and a half between getting a publisher and fixing all the typos and the rewriting and it's just endless. And yeah, it's just, but writing the book was actually, it was kind of fun because I got to see who I was, and I use the past tense because once you write the book and see who you are, it becomes who you were. You don't want to be that guy anymore. I see what I did all, from the time I was, by the time I graduated. I started when I graduated until up to 2011, I think. From the time I graduated college to 2011. It just, so I saw the arc of my life kind of, sort of, through my eyes. If you ask other people, they would give you a different story, but through my eyes. So yeah, and then you read it because you have to keep on checking it. Excuse me.
Bless you.
That's funny. I protected my TV screen so you don't get it sneezed on.
Yeah, Larry has a little mask across his computer screen.
Yeah. So it was fun reading it and then seeing, what I did and how I thought about it. And of course, with distance, time, you change your mind. You say, why did I do that? I mean, I know why I did it because I remember doing it, whatever it was. And, but it seemed logical at the time, hey, I'm going to do this or I'm going to say this. And then when you read it, 20 years later, or however long it was, and you go, why did I do that, man? That was crazy. Wow, So yeah, distance, you do change, even if you don't notice it, and then you look back when and when you wrote it, and you go, holy cow. So yeah, it was an eye opener for me. My own book was an eye opener, but everybody laughed a lot. It's funny. That's the weird thing. The book is funny, but it wasn't funny when I was writing it. I was writing it, this is serious stuff. It's my life. I've got to write this down. And people would read it and they would laugh. But it was the same thing when I was doing stand-up. I think something is funny, they wouldn't laugh. And then they would laugh at the setup, not the punchline. And I'd go, wow. But, people, that's the whole thing about art, I guess. What the artist does and why he does it, and then what people think when they watch it or read it or, whatever, use it or whatever, or listen to it. Yeah, it's just totally different. And when I read the book, I was a reader, not Larry. I wasn't that guy. I was a reader. Mm-hmm. And I was saying, oh, this is funny, man. This part here. I didn't know it when I wrote it, but that's ridiculous what I just did. Anyway, that's the book. So it'll be out. All right, let me tell you where it'll be out in March. In about a month, it'll be out, and it'll be out on Amazon and my website, thereallarryhankin.com, and maybe on Patreon. I'm getting a website on Patreon.
Okay.
The Larry Hankin website. So yeah, but if you just Amazon, yeah. Oh, and give it 5 stars. You got to give it 5 stars.
I can't see you getting any less than that, Larry, with the stories that you've told in the past. And we want to try and catch up on a couple of stories this time around. Now, you brought up an interesting point. You said that, you're not that person when you're reading the book. What do you think was like the biggest change from when you did it to when you wrote it? What did you notice the biggest change?
Well, I noticed how naive I was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just totally didn't know what was going on, didn't know where I was going. I mean, but that was true. I get literally it was true, but figuratively I didn't know that. It was, I was just doing things where I didn't know, because I never wanted to be an actor. See, so when I became an actor, because I was doing stand-up and doing improv, and people said, "Oh, well, he's probably a good actor, good character actor." And I liked the money, so I said, yeah. But I was totally naive because I never wanted to be in show business. I mean, I never dreamed about it or anything like that. It was just, I went to college, Syracuse, as an industrial designer. I studied industrial design. I wanted to be a painter. These are I have paintings all over my house that I did. And so when Hollywood called or, cast me from San Francisco. I was doing improv in San Francisco. I was in Second City, and then we went to San Francisco to open our own place, improv theater. So I was just doing that, and I was ready to stay in San Francisco for the rest of my life. It was great. We were very popular. We were a hit there for years. So I thought, well, I'll just be here. That's cool. And then Hollywood came up, because it's a quick flight. San Francisco or a drive to LA. And they said, "Hey, why don't you come to LA and be an actor?" So I think, okay, I mean, I'm improvising. What's the difference? Well, there's a big difference. But I thought the money was good. So I went down there. And, I was a stand-up comedian and a stage actor. And I would do my own shows. So San Francisco was really safe and it was hip. And they understood me and they laughed and they liked it. And I would be in the committee and then I would do my own shows. I'd rent the theater on the dark nights. I'd go to other nightclubs on my night off and do a set. So San Francisco was great. And I didn't think about acting. I just thought about waking up and doing my day. That was how I looked at it. But when you get down to LA, everything is serious, man. Everybody's business and auditions and being late and on time and costume fittings and driving to the valley and what the hell? In San Francisco, I walked every place. I walked from my house to my work, the theater. I lived right around the corner. If I wanted to go to a friend's, I'd drive maybe 10 minutes. Or I'd walk 10 blocks. But in LA, man, it's just so anyway, when I read the book, that's what I saw. God, is this guy naive? Oh my God. And obviously as you grow up, you could see I was starting to get a little edge, starting to talk back, keep my place in line, whatever it was. But you could see that when I read it, that's what I saw, the naivete. I didn't know what was going on. And it was really huge. The naivete was huge that's what was funny, where I'd see, my God, Larry, wake up. What do you see what's happening? I'm talking to the book. Hey, man, wake up. So, but the upside of it all is, you see, oh, well, thank God I've grown up. I'm not that guy.
Sure.
But anyway, that's kind of what I saw when I read it.
The last time that we spoke, we actually didn't get to touch on your time in the committee. I know that, it was a improv group that you did with your college buddy, Carl Gottlieb, and also Howard Hesseman. And get any special memories from doing that?
Well, Carl was my my buddy from college. We met in college, And I was in industrial design department, and he was in the arts department, theater department. He wanted to be a writer. So that's what he was studying, writing, creative writing. I don't know what how he wanted, if you want to write a book or whatever, but writing. I was going to be an industrial designer, but I was fooled. I mean, I was naive, I guess, all my life. I mean, I guess that's the upshot of, because when my parents didn't want me to go out of town to college, they wanted me to stay in New York, and I could live at home. And that was the last thing. I wanted to run away since I was 10. So that didn't wash. So finally, Syracuse, I saw that they had an industrial design department. And I thought, design, that's what stuck out in my mind, the word design. I thought, art. Oh, okay. And I said to my parents, oh, how about Syracuse? They have an industrial design department. So, oh, no, I said, they have an industrial design department. I featured the industrial part so that they would think I was getting a career. When actually I thought I was going to art school. And it turned out I was going to a business career matriculation. I mean, industrial design is you go to Detroit and you design cars. You design machinery. You design kitchens. You design stuff people use. And that's not. But anyway, it entails mathematics and calculus and engineering. And my mind was blown. I was ready to go to art school. And here they were, it just. But I made it through because I'm not a quitter. No, I didn't want to disappoint my parents. I was a good son, one of those. Yes, all right. And I was smart enough to, cut it. So I got like an A- average, and so they sent me to Detroit. Syracuse sent me to Detroit for a meeting, during the term. They flew me to Detroit, or Detroit flew me there. I don't know who. But anyway, they had a confab of about 9 or 10 other students from other industrial design colleges around the United States. So we were all invited. There was 10 of us from all the different colleges, and I represented Syracuse. Well, I didn't know that, though. See, that's the naivete that's what I'm talking about. I didn't realize that I represented the best of Syracuse industrial design. I mean, they never told me that. But so I was just mouthing off and dissing everything. I was like, wow, man, oh, you like that? No, I thought, no, that's why I was looking at it. It's just, I was expecting more. I remember I said that. I was expecting more from Ford. And he just looked at me, the tour guide, who was also a designer who was assigned to us on Saturday to take us for a tour. And he goes, that was designed by the head of the department. And I go, oh, well, I didn't know that, but it's still bad. I don't like it, And he goes, you don't want to work here, do you?
Well, what tipped you off, right?
So, but I didn't. See, that was not. I didn't know that I didn't like it, but obviously I did. I didn't want to be there. Obviously, he picked up on it. I didn't. I was just like telling the truth. I thought, well, if they want me, I'm going to tell the truth. And when he said, "You don't want to work here, do you?" And I go, "Well, I don't know. That's why I'm here. I want to find out." And so far, no. So. I'm just having a conversation with a guy. I didn't know that, I was representing the finest of Syracuse. I had no idea. So when I got back to Syracuse, they said, what happened there? I mean, like, they asked me not like out of curiosity, but out of incredulousness. What happened there? I go, what do you mean? Well, they said, well, don't send Larry Hankin. So I said, something, they said it nicely, but they said, yeah, you don't measure up. You're one of our A students. What do you mean? What did you do there? Nothing, man. I lost it. It's bad. Later on in that tour, they showed us the dining room, which was, I was very impressed. It was like very modern, like a very hip New York high-end restaurant, and that was where they ate. So I said, wow, this is really impressive. Because I knew I had screwed up. And the guy said, you don't want to work here. I thought, well, maybe I should just back off with these honesty thing. So I kept my mouth shut for the rest of the tour. And then we get to this lunch, this dining room. And I go, wow, hey, man, this is really cool. This is great. So what do we eat lunch, dinner here? How does that work? And he says, oh, no, you don't eat here. This is for the CEOs. So I go, well, then why are you showing this to us? If we can't eat here, what's the big deal? I mean, what are you trying to pull the wall over? What's going on? And then that was the clincher. That's when the report was written in his mind. Okay, this guy. And I was thinking, because I saw a look on his face, and I know the other kids too. I mean, they're like, what the heck is going on with this guy? Didn't he want to work here? This is great. And I'm thinking, no. And I just thought, if I do work here, there's nothing I can say here that's going to be right. I'm going to just be putting my foot in my mouth every day, all day long about, my honesty. So I thought, I'm better off. I think if they write a bad report, it'll be cool. It'll be fine. And that's what they did. And that was kind of the end of my honoring my parents' wishes, So when I got back, I knew it's over. I'm not going to be an industrial designer. And it was a 5-year course, man. It wasn't 4 years. You had to go 5 years. So, my best friend Carl at the time in Syracuse, I asked him, I said, because you were graduate at the same time.
Right.
So I said, where are you going when you graduate? And he goes, I'm going to Greenwich Village, man. I'm going to be a writer. Why? And he goes, well, I don't want to go to Detroit and be an industrial designer, man. That is bad news, man. So how would you like a roommate? He said, what, in Greenwich Village? I go, yeah, man, I'm not going to Detroit. And he goes, yeah, fine. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Because I can't afford, New York, even cheap in New York is expensive. Mm-hmm. So, well,
Yes.
So, and back then, even it was. So, especially with two cars. So we became roommates, and he was writing all the time. He got a job right away on a newspaper, and he was writing and local newspaper, nothing big, nothing that famous. But he was writing, and that's what he wanted to do. So he was cool. And I was bussing bars from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. because I didn't know anything about show business. I wanted to be a painter. And then all I did for 5 years in college was I came away with an industrial design degree. So I had I could do engineering and a little bit of calculus, and I could draw well, So I started to hang around because it was Greenwich Village. I mean, we were living in Greenwich Village, and he had working in a newspaper within walking distance. So I started to hang around the coffee houses, the open mic nights. You get a cup of coffee because they didn't have much money. I mean, busing a bar from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., you're not making much money, man. So I was paying half the rent, just getting by. Carl would help me out a little. And so I would hang around the coffee house, and I was sitting through these 3-minute open mic night comedy, folk singing stuff. You could either sing 2 songs or do 3 minutes of comedy, or 2 songs, whichever. So I was sitting through all this hippie stuff, and everybody had long hair and beads and stuff, tie-dye. And I was in jeans and a t-shirt. I mean, I didn't know about hippiness or anything like that. I didn't know about Bob Dylan or rock and roll or anything like that. So it was a turn on for me. And so I was watching his comedians. I'm a funny guy. I was a funny guy in high school. I won funniest guy in high school 2 years in a row, man. I'm a pro. So, I was doing my 3 minutes, and Larry, you're not a pro. Let's just say right out front. There's a learning curve here, Larry. You got to just get up there for a paying customer, even if it's like $2 for a cup of coffee. He's not buying it. But here's the great thing about open mic nights, which is the greatest thing ever, is they come in a priori in front with patience, because they know it's 3 minutes. How bad could you be for 3 minutes, Because why they're there is for their friend to go up on the stage, either as a folk singer or as a comedian. So they're going to shut up and listen to you and your bad, stupid, naive humor for 3 minutes so that you won't boo their friends. So everybody is always quiet and very polite, and either they laugh or they don't. And that's about it, which is fine, man. That's what you need. Patience. When you're learning anything, patience, man, from your teacher and from yourself. So I just reveled in it. I just grew, I learned very fast at comedy. Well, I guess maybe I had a proclivity for it. People do have proclivities for different things. But my learning curve was really fast. And within 6 months, I was opening for Woody Allen and touring. So, yeah, I guess I did learn fast. And then I had, by the 6 months were over, because you would run from coffee house to coffee house on open mic nights. They all had the same, Monday they were probably closed, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday were open mic nights, and maybe Sunday every once in a while. So you would run, and since it was Greenwich Village, you could go from coffee house. Everything was close, so you could go down the block and you do another coffee house 3 minute. So what I was doing is running around to there was like 3 or 4 coffee houses that I could get to in one evening between, say, 9 o'clock and 11:30. I could do 4 3-minute sets at least in different coffee houses. And then sometimes I could come back to the first one I did at like 9:30 after the 11:30 show or the fourth one, and I do another 5th set again at the first one. You make a circle. And it was kind of cool because everybody who became famous in the 60s was there when I was there. Dylan, Peter, Paul, and Mary. Who else? I don't know, just everybody. I can't even remember. But all the bands, no names come to mind, but they were all there throughout the 60s. Mm-hmm. And then they became big names and arena stars in the 70s and 80s. But in Greenwich Village, Frank Zappa was there, the Mothers of Invention, anybody who was big in the 70s and 80s. So finally, I got a manager, and I was touring and open for Woody Allen. And then I started to get my own. Well, the material that I was doing in the Village only worked in the Village, frankly. It was hippie stuff. It was marijuana stuff. You could curse on stage. But Lenny Bruce was being busted at the time in the late 60s, early 70s. They were taking him in for drugs. But he was doing, so I called my manager and I said, Woody's manager, and I said, hey, man, it's not fun. Cops are starting to take me off the stage in the boonies, not in Greenwich Village, but he had me touring. So I was opening for Peter, Paul, and Mary, Ian and Sylvia, the Kingston Trio. I was doing the Playboy clubs. And that's when the cops started to pull me off the stage. And I called my manager. I said, I can't do this, man. It's not fun. Cops, you're always looking over your shoulder thinking, when are they going to come up and take me off? That was what I would get. At what point in my 20 minutes, opening for Chanteuse, blues singers and folk singers, well, the whole gamut. when are they going to pull me up? So he said, well, why don't you join Second City? They're doing the same stuff as Lenny and George Carlin and Pryor, but they own the theater, so the cops can't come in, you know. And Richie was doing, but they were being pulled off the stage, just that they had money for lawyers, and they knew what was going on, and I didn't. Mm-hmm. That was the difference. Carlin, you know, knew exactly what he was doing and why he was doing it. And he kind of wanted, in a weird way, the cops to pull him off the stage because it was publicity, and it told the Vox Populi what kind of material he was doing. So if you're going to come to the show, you know what you're going to get. And kind of with me, I was opening for very white bread people. So they didn't know. So I was starting to see that even Woody's audience wasn't mine. You know, in the beginning, yeah, while we were working New York together, he was the headliner. So, you know, they would come to see him. But I would get my laughs too. I was a good opener for him. But once we left New York, no, they would come to see him, but they didn't want to hear what I had to say. So it was kind of, I joined Second City. That's why I joined Second City. Mm-hmm. Like I couldn't take the heat, you know. So that anyway, that's how I got into it.
We're on that internet thingy at Sherpalution.com.
That'll do it for part one of my interview with Mr. Larry Hankin, the author of the new autobiography, That Guy, a Cautionary Memoir. And thanks so much for Larry to spending some time in the Sherpa Screening Room. And if you're enjoying what you're hearing, could you do me a favor? Leave us a nice review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Make some people aware of the Sherpalution. And you know, if you are listening to this show on a podcast app, which you probably are, there are so many others that you can listen to it on as well, or at Sherpalution.com. And two that I've been very excited about are Podimo, Podimo, and Podopolo, Podopolo. And those are podcast apps where the podcaster, like me, this guy over here, we get paid and it costs you absolutely nothing. So if you're looking for something to download and to hear your favorite podcast, maybe even this one, have a look at your local app store and download it for free. It's just that simple. So I guess that will do it for this week. And we hope to see you next week for the conclusion of this interview. And there's a lot of really good stuff coming up on it. I promise you. Some really interesting things Larry had to say. So make sure you listen next week and also spread the word, you know? Until next time, you will be hearing from us, and viva la Sherpalution, Mr. Bruce. Take it away, sir.
Thanks for listening to the Sherpa Screening Room. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. I'm Mr. Bruce, and this has been a Sherpalu Studios production. Viva la Sherpalution.